Okay, so tonight I have the honor of introducing our own club president, for those who might not know him, Dr. Dan Teich. Dan has had a fascination in minerals, especially New Jersey, for more than 3 decades, and has very extensive collection, which he generously shares with students at the mineral shows. His main interest is the Chimney Rock Quarry in Bound Brook or Bridgewater, New Jersey. But he's an active collector both in the US and, of course, abroad, including Iceland, including Spain, including France, and I guess we'll find out many other countries by next month. Um, So he has his very special field collecting truck now, so no excuse to only bring back small specimens. So he enjoys encouraging young people in the hobby of mineral collecting. And this was very evident to me when I worked alongside him at the show in November at George Mason. He was so encouraging and welcoming for anyone that came by our table. Dan also has a doctorate in veterinary medicine from Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine. Go Buckeyes! And an undergrad degree in animal science from Rutgers University, the Scarlet Knights. Um, Dan is also a past winner of the national My Vets the Best contest. And I understand that he may be a big Monty Python fan. So, along with the knights that say Neep, please help me welcome our president, Dan Teich, as he introduces Ruck's Pit in Fort Drum, Florida, the source of fossil clams filled with golden calcite crystals. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, everybody. I am very excited to be here. Okay, hi, everybody. Today we are talking about a place called Ruck's Pit. It is a field trip in paleogeology, and Sean and I were there in when? Not long ago. So it's a world famous place, and I'm going to give you a little tour as to what's going on. So why is this place so special? It is kind of the best in the world, and you don't get to do that very often. What does it have? It has fossils filled with gem quality calcite, and it's a unique combination of marine fossils, aka shells, um, weird ancient beach geology, and the more that I went into this and the more that I went to do this presentation, the weirder and weirder and weirder the mineralogy became for me. At first, I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough to talk about for the entire time, so I actually was going to pair it with something that I saw in Spain. This talk wound up consuming my life time-wise because it's unbelievably weird as to what this place really does do. And yes, this is in Florida. The site, it's Fort Drum, Florida. I can assure you, you have never heard of Fort Drum. I promise you. It's north of Lake Okeechobee. Oh, you can't see my cursor, can you? Oh, well. It's north of Lake Okeechobee. There ain't no hotels. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's about 35 feet above sea level for now. And it had good gravel for a period of time. Again, a period of time. Here's a current little satellite grab of the area from our good friends at Google Earth. The pit itself is the gigantic blue lake. And our area that we were toying around with is just off that little arrow, those two little clumps of green. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but that's where we basically were for this field trip. The rest of it is a cattle ranch. So occasionally you'd see some cows. Um, it's on the Osceola Plain. So just if you see where our big little red dot is there, we'll come back and I'll discuss this a little bit. But notice the horizontal and waving lines going down Florida. Those are basically delineations from different beaches. So what is the Osceola Plain? Uh, the Osceola Plain is an ancient beach ridge system. It was formed in the early Pleistocene, about 2 or 3 million years ago, when sea level is much higher. Where our study site is the edge of an ancient Atlantic coastline. So the waves were lapping up around there about 2.5, 3 million years ago. The area is really characterized by like it's a beach. It's what you would think that it is. It's sandy, gentle sloping terrain, pine trees, palmettos, scattered wetlands. That's what the place looks like right now, and it looked like that kind of about 2 to 3 million years ago, except for it was a beach. Current photo, kind of what you would expect for Central Florida. Trees, grass, sand, critters everywhere in the grass, so you have to be careful. I'm sure there's plenty of lovely little snakes and other little things. Plenty of snails too. Funny note, we accidentally took home a live snail. Um, of course, lots of sun. So this gave for the wonderful opportunity for Sean to wear his Ladies Who Lunch hat and protect himself from the sun. Quick note: we actually bought this hat at a thrift store on the way here. So let's talk about where we are before we get really going into the photos of what we have. Our study site was at the edge of warm, shallow coastal waters, beaches, nearshore sands, and there was lots and lots of marine life back then. There were supposedly, for what they believe, strong waves and currents. And it basically, if you really want to think about it, it basically was the beach as we see it now in Florida. Fort Pierce here was the closest place we could find a hotel for the night when we were there, and it was a lovely little spot. By the way, there's manatee in Fort Pierce. So it was basically a beach. It was an ancient beach where we were, and this study site was the very edge of where the beach came in. So what are we looking at here? So if you were to take a cross section and go down right through where we are, you've got several different layers here. Starting from the top, of course, you have surface sands and soil. It's about 5 feet thick, iron stained. You got all your lovely things that you would expect in dirt. Underneath that is the what they call the Fort Thompson unit. It's shelly sands with vertebrate fossils, mastodons, anything really from like 2.5 million years and up. They've pulled out all sorts of weird things from there over the past years. So that's like sands and things like that. After that is the Nashua, you can pronounce that, I'm not going to, unit, which is cemented shell beds, as they call it. So it's kind of like limestoney, and it consists of coquina, which is, we'll get to that in just a second. So that's what they were looking for, really, was that layer. And then underneath that layer is sand, mollusks, stuff like that. So what's really interesting is up here is you have sand, you have dirt, you have sand, rock, sand. And that rock layer is what they were after here. And why were they after this? They were after it for roadway gravel, basically. Roadway gravel and other aggregates. And what were they doing? They were blasting with dynamite. It was quarry basically. So they wanted this stuff, so they would blast it with dynamite to get out the coquina, which is basically lithified shell-filled sand. It's kind of limestoney. It's kind of hard. It's got a lot of calcite, obviously. And it's kind of boring rock, at least it was, until they kind of decided that they were not going to use dynamite anymore. And what happens when they didn't use dynamite? Lo and behold, they discovered that there's other stuff in here. Um, when you're not taking dynamite, blowing up everything, you maybe find things. So when they changed mining techniques, they went from dynamite to just ripping it out with bulldozers and backhoes. They discovered in here an intact clam layer. It's about a meter above the uh, the basal sands on the bottom, and they discovered that a lot of these clams were just as they were. Like if you just went over to the beach and just dug them up. And then they also saw like that they had calcite in them, and they were just filled with calcite. So the lesson being, when you stop blowing up things, you can see things. Um, so what were they looking at? They were looking at Mercenaria clams. What is it? It's an extinct relative of the quahog. So it's basically a big clam. Let's just say it's just a big clam. They had pretty thick shells, and again, they were preserved as if they were in life position. And again, the biggest secret of all, they had calcite crystals inside. Now, calcite crystals have been found in other areas and in other clam shells. In fact, I think there's a place in Maryland or Virginia that has had some. I've seen a couple specimens from there, and I can't seem to find out where it was. Um, but nothing, nothing like this. Um, so now that we know that where the clams are, let's get into a quick little background of where we were. So this man in the yellow vest, his name is John Kramer. John Kramer's pretty known for doing field trips and things like that out of Pacific Geolab, and he was the one who secured the rights to the area. And at the end, I'll discuss a little bit about the history of the area. But this is John Kramer showing us things. And this is how we were looking for the clams. Real short, the pit, over the years, they stopped mining it quite some time ago, but the owner of the pit, 25 years ago, mined out a whole bunch of the clam layer from the bottom of the pit and then dumped it on the surface in huge piles. Remember when we had those those two green bumps that are on the map? Those are huge piles of the clam layer that he dumped on the surface and had overgrown with vegetation. So what we were doing is they were taking huge chunks of this clam layer and putting it down on on the ground. And then you take you just take hoses and you wash everything out, and then you sort through it. This is a mud lover's paradise. If you love mud, this was for you. If you loathe mud, this was not for you. So this is how we were looking for the clams. And that big piece that you saw earlier, where I was describing the clams, this is that piece coming out of the side of the of a mound, of a large mound. This piece weighed, oh God, what, over 120 pounds? Something like 120 pounds. And I can tell you that because we brought it home. It is currently sitting in our living room. And it's going to be a project for me for probably several years to work on. And I have some very good friends that I met down there to thank for bringing this home for us. It's insanely big. So this is what you find in there, as crazy as it sounds and looks. And we'll get to describing how in the world this forms. Just a quick note on the bottom, you can see that layer, that's coquina on the bottom, that gray layer. And then, of course, you have the clam with all the crazy calcite crystals inside. So how did it happen? Probably, they think. At least I've been told. So you had clams. They lived their happy lives buried in sand and mud. Something happened. Who knows what? A storm, uh, some crazy sediment influx, who knows? But the clams got buried really quickly and got buried alive. So, the shells were preserved in their lifelike position. Everything inside the clams obviously died and left a hollow. Uh, and then as time went on, they got buried deeper. Groundwater circulated through the layers. Um, Limestone and the shells themselves dissolved somewhat in the water. Calcium carbonate concentrated in voids. Precipitation occurred inside the shell space, and you get clams that have fossils. But we have to discuss this in much more detail because that's just too boring, isn't it? And why? Because these clams did something crazy, absolutely insane. So, we all have calcite in our mineral collections. Well, most of us. But this did something really weird, and it formed radial calcite. So instead of just getting your blocks of calcite and your drues, it formed like flowers of calcite. And the finest of its kind came from clams. So let's delve into how this happened because it's loony. This is a quick little summary of how it happened, and we'll get into the details. You have a confined cavity space, supersaturated mineral deposition, recrystallization, partially from the clams themselves. We'll get to that. You had competitive crystal growth, you had high nucleation density, and then, of course, they're going to have a little bit of an oddball. You have the point source effect. So what do we get? You got crystals growing inside the hollow interior of the clams. The shells, formed like a geode. They formed a hollow area, providing a nice protected circular environment that encouraged crystals to nucleate, which means to start forming, and radiate outward from the shell's inner wall towards the center. So when you got something like this, and you have something forming, they're going downward. So the confined space by itself was valuable. In a lot of places you see lots of calcite, it's just huge, huge spaces that the calcite have to grow. This is not that. And it's not a thin, narrow seam either, where you get thin, narrow seams, calcite just fills the whole thing. This had a little bit of room, but not too much room. So the confined space was important. And you can see, here you have confined space inside of a clam. This color is just crazy. Supersaturation. Everybody likes super things. You have mineral-rich groundwater, aka calcium carbonate, came into the shells. The water was highly, highly calcified, and it kept on continuously precipitating inside these shells. And the continuous part of it is what's essential for forming the shells. Forming the crystals is that you have more and more calcite coming in, precipitates, more comes in, so it just builds up. So supersaturation, and the supersaturation allowed it to do this quickly. Remember, in geologic times, these things are 2 million years old, which sounds old, but is super young for a rock. I mean, it's crazy young for a rock. So supersaturation. Confined space, now you got lots of mineral-rich water going into the confined space. And again, you get flowers of calcite. This is not normal. This is not what you normally see for calcite. I have a lot of calcite. You do not see this. Now, reprecipitation, because why just have some fun with it? The original aragonite from the clam shells, after it got buried and under pressure, etc., started to dissolve itself, which is pretty neat. And then the calcite from the clams themselves grew into the crystals. So if you really want to think about it, the clams formed their own calcite crystals, which I thought that was one of the coolest things that I'd ever seen in paleogeology. You have the fossil created its own crystallization. It just that just doesn't happen. So the clams form their own crystals, and I think that's the neatest thing of the whole thing. So I thought that was pretty neat. And again, here's clam, and you can see I chose this picture here because you can see in the middle where the top was blasted off with a high pressure water gun. You can see the radial nature of the crystals. It looks like wheels in there. Now, we're not done yet. We have high nucleation density. So, as I like to say, a lot of friends in a crowded spot. The inner layer of the clamshell, the mother of pearl layer, basically, provides a lot of space and a lot of surface area for calcite to latch onto or start from. And because the water was so concentrated, you get a lot of attachment points and a lot of crystals starting to grow. And that being said, then they start all to grow and they start pushing against each other, and they're in a confined space. And that's very important, the fact that they're in a confined space, because after a while, only the fittest survive. Crystals that grow perpendicular to the shell have more room to expand than ones that grow like this. So that's why you get the bigger ones here, and everything else gets smaller. And anything growing at an odd angle eventually bumps into something else. The result is basically geometric natural selection, where the crystals growing straight outward from the shell survive, and then everything else forms like a sunburst pattern around it. And that's how you got that sunburst pattern, which I don't really know any other real calcite that really does that. All right. So now that we've gotten down to why we have radial crystals versus single crystals, let's have a little bit of a fun little summary here. Radial sprays, growth rate's fast. We saw that here. Space is narrow curved cavities. Shell's perfect for that. Nucleation, high, got many crystals all at once. And the result is dogtooth and or sprays and fans. That's what we got. Most of the other time, you get blocky rhombs. Slow, steady mineral, large open rock veins. Nucleation, maybe 1, 2 crystals. Sometimes you get, a whole thing of druzy as well, but you don't get that. And the result is solid, chunky cubes and rhombs, but or dogtooth as well, but nothing to the degree that we see in this kind of area. Of course, why keep it simple? So there's a little bit of a variation on the theme here. It's called point source crystals. So in many specimens, the crystals just don't line the entire thing. They kind of erupt out like a bouquet from one spot. How does that happen? An impurity or a crack in the shell acts as a conduit for mineral-rich water to enter. Think of it like a hose coming in through just a hole. The calcite enters at that specific point, and the crystals just grow outward like this. So that's what's called the point source. And if you couple that with everything else, you get all sorts of interesting things. And you can see here, this perfectly demonstrates that, the point source. The whole thing's not filled, but you've got a couple areas here that are just crazy with the calcite. And it forms basically almost like these flowers. And the bottom and then the top, you got that. So this one was probably formed by a point source. Of course, now that we've discussed, we've got clam-filled fossils, we know how it happened. Now we got to figure out why the neat color. How often do you see golden calcite like with this color? You see golden calcite. You can see calcite almost every color, but not quite like this radiance. So how did it happen? Well, the area was covered by swamp. You can see that in the photos, especially earlier. Um, After it all got buried, there was swamp on top. And what's swamp got? Swamp's got swamp stuff. You got tannins in there. You got humic and fulvic acids from decay of plant material, very common. And they kind of stained the crystals because it's all inside the stuff that's percolating through. And it basically is incorporated into the crystal structure. And that gets important later on for something else that's kind of wicked. You also have trace iron and Sean's favorite mineral, manganese. Well, not mineral, element. So you have trace iron and manganese in there as well, and that contributes to the color of it as well. The tannins and the impurities scatter the light as well, which gives that warm glow. You look at these crystals under natural sunlight, and they just glow. It's not like any other calcite I have. And I got at the George Mason show, I got a really cool calcite from Mr. Ruck. I love it. It's a nice one. It does not glow like this. Nothing glows like this. Also, internal planes from the radial growth adds to the play of light. But these things shine. And what makes it neat as well is you also have another element in there. It's like the humic and fulvic acids are organic. So you get them another play in this. So you have, calcite, you've got limestone, you've got the shells themselves producing calcium carbonate, and to do this, and then you've got on top of that, you've got another organic getting in here. So it just everything combining just makes this absolutely fascinating. So that's kind of about the color. Now, the crystals may not be uniform in color either. Some of them have a clear white, like the base of the crystal is clear. And that might be when the water was cleaner. Maybe there wasn't as much tannins in there yet. And then as the crystals grow, the concentration of the fluids around it, the water can get stronger because you got less space as well in there, and it just becomes more concentrated now. So more concentrated means stronger color. So you can actually see some of these crystals have color gradients in them. And this is the best example that I was able to find of that. So here you see the golden calcite all around the sides. And in the middle, you've got that whitish thing. That's actually broken. So you can see coming off of it the darker color, but the middle's white. And that's because that area was actually the golden calcites were broken off of that. This is by far like maybe the best example that I've seen from the pit so far of that color variation. So pretty neat. So, little fun fact, because why not have some more fun fact? Since the color is caused by organic matter, usually, it can fade. Sunlight does not do well with organics. So if you have these things in bright sunlight for quite some time, it can actually break down some of the organics in there and the crystal color can fade. So I don't recommend housing these in direct sunlight. Probably if it's in a collection somewhere that's not in direct sun, fine, but it's got organics, so they can actually fade. And here's another surprise. They glow. And boy, do they glow. They glow like you can't imagine. Under a black light, long wave or short wave, doesn't matter. They will glow. You get crazy fluorescence. There's another one. These things, the color is intense. Now, lots of calcite does glow. That's not an unusual thing. The calcites in my collection from the Chimney Rock Quarry don't glow green like this. It's like this bright yellow green. They glow red. These glow this crazy greenish yellow. So, yeah, fluorescence and phosphorescence. So again, lots of calcite fluoresces, but Ruck's calcite has an extended phosphorescent glow. It can last several seconds. The glow here is longer than many Franklin minerals. Sorry, Kenny. I know you're listening to this. But the phosphorescence is extremely long and bright. Also, it does help that these crystals are kind of clear for that, so it helps. How's that happen? Well, humic and fulvic acids are naturally phosphorescent. So there you have it. That's part of it. Manganese can help with that as well. It replaces some of the calcite ions, so you got a little bit of manganese in there. And the glow itself is due to the crystal lattice trapping all the light energy and then releasing it. Do not ask me how. This is beyond my abilities to tell you anything further than that. But it's insane. The color variations are insane. Let's see if this works. This was from my friend Tyler. I was not able to do this, but he sent me this. And you can see natural light, UV light, turn it off. And you get this crazy lasting glow.
Wow.
Absolutely, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And again, thank you, Tyler, for sending this to us, sending this to me, because I wasn't able to do that because we're here in Spain and I did not bring rocks with me. So it's crazy. And again, since the color isn't evenly distributed, the basement glow less or not at all. So you have zonal fluorescence. So not everything in there is the same glowing, which I think was just absolutely wicked. So we're gonna have a little bit of summary here about why this site matters. It's unique. It's absolutely unique. You have these absolutely crazy showy specimens. You put these on display and everybody oohs and ahs over them, over the fact that it's just the weirdest thing that they've seen. You have a shell with calcite crystals coming out of it, and it's not just regular ones. It's like glowingly crazy, bright, happy, shiny calcite crystals. You have a unique geology. How many different weird things had to happen for this to happen? You had to have a coastline that then got buried rapidly with clams that were closed to prevent all the silt from getting inside of them. And then you had to have the rapid burial, leaching out of calcium carbonate from different sources. The clams themselves contributed to their own crystal formation. Then you had to have the tannins get in to stain them as well. So it just all sorts of things that just came together to form this weird thing. Then you have otherworldly fluorescence and phosphorescence. The colors are insane. I'm a little sad that haven't been home in a long time, because otherwise I would have had more videos of the black light on these things, because it really is insane. The unusual fossilization process here, this was just weird. It's just a real weird one. And then you have the crystal growth habit. This is the finest radial calcite in the world. It just doesn't normally grow like that. So you just don't get it. And that's what you have here at Ruck's Pit. I have acknowledgments, and I've got a few other little slides here. I want to thank some friends and professionals, John Kramer, professional, Pacific Geolab, for making this all happen. My friends Tyler and Kevin, who I met in Florida, who contributed to giving me some video here and a couple photos. They're awesome people and very much helped get some of these rocks back home for us. Taylor's Rocksmithery, they were there the days after us and gave me a couple photos. Mindat stole a little bit, and same thing from Rob Levinsky via Mindat. I have some really nice clams at home. I do not have many of them prepared yet. Sean and I hauled back a lot, and most of it is not prepared. It's been cleaned from dirt, but that's about it. So we will have years of clam preparation on that. Most important thing about rock hunting is making friends. So that's a fun part about that. You got to make friends. I would be remiss to say that the clams were the only things to be fossilized and turned into calcite fossils. You can see it in other things too. You got whelks in there. There were definitely others as well. So here's another one. You can just see this thing was just solid calcite. I want to show a historical photo of the pit from 2004. You can see how deep it is, and where people were working it before they before they turned the pumps off, and the whole thing flooded. Definitely a mud pit. That would have been, I would have loved to have done that. This would have been so much fun to have done. But you can see the historical area, and where all the people are lined up on the bottom of it, obviously, is where the clams were. And that's the layer that they scooped out, that Mr. Ruck scooped out and left on the top. He knew that it was valuable, and that's why it still existed. And they also trucked out a whole bunch of this stuff to another location where they had people pay to sort through it. They had many dump trucks that they took over there, but that area has since been exhausted out, and now it's just the piles that are here. Quick note and a plug for John Kramer and friends. They are doing another Clam Fest, I believe the 19th and 20th of March, or something like that. So in a couple weeks they're doing it. You can go. You just look up Ruck's Pit Clam Fest if they have any availability left. It's I think they charge like $300-400, and you get to take home a 5-gallon bucket worth of clams for as part of that. It is worth it, because once this is gone, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. And that's the end of that. That's the end of the clams, because number one, the pit's filled back in. Number two, the current landowner uses as a cattle ranch and has really no desire to drain the pit. And number three, the clam layer is pretty much exhausted. Remember, this was not a huge area. This was a sandbar that got buried. So it's not this humongous area. So if you want to go clam hunting, it's your last opportunity, probably. Here we are with Kevin and that gigantic clam specimen that is in our house. The reason that we have Kevin is posing with us. Number one, he's a cool guy, but number two, he was kind enough to loan us some of his tools to help us dig this gigantic thing out, because we were traveling in backpacks, and TSA really doesn't like when you bring hammers and crowbars with you on a plane. So we thanked Kevin for that. And we thanked Kevin with this. This was a piece that we pulled out from underneath that, and it is in Kevin's collection as a token of generosity for helping us dig out that gigantic thing. We're hoping that there's something else deep inside that gigantic specimen that resembles this, but we don't know. We'll find out one day. And that is your little lovely talk on clams. I will take questions to the best of my abilities to answer them.
Thank you, Dan. That was awesome.
How do I get back to this?
Yeah, really excellent. Dan, I have a question for you, and that is, what gave you the tip off that this was worth even examining? You know, that the place that Ruck's had this extraordinary formation process that's really quite unique.
Hang on 1 second here for me, Andy. I gotta figure out how to stop sharing. There we go. I've known about it. So I knew about it a long time ago that it existed because I've seen the clams. Um, and I don't remember how I came across it that they were doing this, but it was pretty last minute. I mean, it was pretty last minute when I came across that they were doing this. And I looked at Sean, I'm like, want to go? He was like, sure. And I think it was like a week.
It was a week.
We had a week's notice for this. And we just said, screw it. So we went.
Thank
It's
you.
Florida. It's not far. We spent 2 nights and that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely an experience worthwhile.
Did you say what it cost to make a reservation?
The it's about $350 to $400 for a full day. They provide all the hoses and the buckets. You just have to get there.
How many buckets do you get to take home? One.
You get to take home one 5-gallon bucket per person.
Okay.
But you can pay for more if you want to. That gigantic piece, the 120 pounder, we paid more for that one.
Dan, I picked up a specimen a few years ago. It's a decent specimen, and the color's not all that great unless you shine a bright light on it. Then I get that really beautiful golden color. And as you were talking, I couldn't resist the temptation to run and get my UV flashlight. And sure enough, I turn it on. It's long wave, and it glows that same bright white color that you showed in your presentation. And to my utter amazement, when you turn off the light, I got that green phosphorescence. It is mind-blowing, Dan, just as you said.
It's crazy. I just, it's crazy. Again, I was thinking that this talk would be, I wouldn't have enough to talk about, but let's see.
It's not working so well, but
It's a
see
little
that golden color.
That's pretty nice clam there, Mr. Rock.
And that's the, it doesn't really show up, but it's this white.
Nice.
We get the idea.
And
Yeah,
that's
we get the idea.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's green.
Awesome. Yeah, it's insane.
Ken, Ken, what color is it before you hit it with light?
Well, it's a dull golden color. It's not real bright. But with a regular light, a bright light on it, like in my flashlight, it's a beautiful golden color.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just so many different things in one thing. And that's what really made it. Again, the more that I was learning about it, the more fascinating it became. I had to eventually call it quits because I was afraid what I was going to even get I was even going to get down to even more things that I didn't know yet. But I thought it was absolutely insane.
Very cool.
Dan, two questions. How long would you say it takes to prep a specimen, like a single clam? And then the second question was, given what a mineral-rich environment that is, like you said, super saturated, did you run across anything about how fast they think the crystals might have formed? Which I'm thinking might have been kind of quick in that environment.
Quick. The whole thing is a maximum of 2.5 million years old. But again, it had to get buried and dissolve out and everything. So there's I was reading that they think that not millions of years, but much less than that.
Yeah, the crystal
I
formation
don't,
itself.
yeah, much less than that. I didn't come across anybody saying it was 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was definitely, if you do the math on just the simple ideas of, it had to get buried, you had to have all the water flow, you had to have the dissolution, all that stuff. It's definitely not in a million years. It's much less than that.
Dan,
Yeah.
if you ever see any specimens that look similar and people tell you they're from Virginia, they are. They were found in Virginia Beach when they were putting in the foundation of the convention center there. So I think
that's where I was looking from. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
I've seen ones. I've seen a specimen from there, and I stupidly did not buy it recently. Now the question about preparation. Some of them you just wash off with a hose. Done. Okay. A lot of them you just wash off with a hose. You're done. They're hollow. A lot of them are hollow to begin with, and there's a couple different types of things. So you obviously have the clam. Like you get an actual full clam like this, and you'll just get crystals around it like this, and you have the hollow in the middle. There's other ones that they call a boat. So it's basically if you take the clam, flip it like this, and just chop it off right in the middle, and it's kind of boat shaped. The whole thing is just like a solid like clam of crystals. That's called a boat. And it looks like, a Chinese junk boat. So the boats, there's a lot of people that really like the boats. Sean found a nice boat.
Very good.
Yes, yeah. So Sean found a nice boat. And it's basically, instead of the clam, like forming, sitting like this, the clam sat vertically. So it settled down. So the crystallization was on the bottom like this. A number of the other ways to prep these, in addition to just cleaning them, is if you take a high pressure water jet, you can bust open the top of the clams off, and that will reveal a lot more of the calcite underneath. The radial calcite one, the crystal image that I showed, that was John Kramer took a high pressure hose and busted the top of it off to expose that. Pros and cons of doing that. Pros, you get to see the radial calcite and you get the top off and all that. The cons, if you're not careful, you just destroyed the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm mixed on this idea because we have a lot of clams that are full and we know they got stuff in them because you can take your black light and shine it on it and it goes through it and you can the whole clam like lights up like it's on fire. Yeah. So you're like, okay, it's full of calcite, but how do I get to see this? Yeah, without turning, as Sean just said, into a pile of rubble. So we'll see. I haven't had the guts to do it yet.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Thanks.
Yeah. Are these saltwater formations or freshwater?
The clams, I believe they were saltwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they were saltwater because they were coastal salt. They were tidal estuary saltwater. I think it's a saltwater species. Mercenaria, I don't remember those.
Well, Dan, I'm kind of jealous. I've been talking about going to Ruck's Pits for at least 10 years now. And Heather's father lived in West Palm Beach. And, I'd always be down there. And the only vehicle I had to take was a Mercedes. And I didn't really I couldn't justify going up and digging in mud and then trying to bring back stuff in his Mercedes. So I made it. But I may still make it one of these days. If John's still here, I know the fort at St. Augustine is made of coquina, and I brought back a piece of that when I was down there at the fort, and it's really cool because that fort has been there since I don't know, either late 1500s or early 1600s, and is one of the oldest cities in the United States. And there's cannonballs that are still stuck in a coquina
In there.
because that's the only rock they had. So they had a quarry down there that you can go. It's a state park, and you can see where they chiseled out these blocks, and it's amazing how hard that is, but yet soft enough that a cannonball could stick into it. So really cool.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
I
the
visited there too,
presentation.
Ken. I remember them saying, just like you said, that it's kind of soft, so it almost was self-healing when it got hit
Yeah.
by cannonballs.
Yeah, and that's why the fort never got destroyed, because it didn't shatter and fall apart. It absorbed the cannonballs. So pretty
It
cool
just-
place to visit.
Yeah.
Great talk, Dan. I really appreciated it. And I
Yeah.
do have Franklin rocks at phosphorus much longer. We'll have to,
Do it.
you have to come over and see them sometime.
That
Yeah,
is,
Deal.
that's such a crazy phenomenon, that phosphorescence.
One
You're
other
gonna
thing I have,
After you turn the light off, it still glows.
You're going to be playing with that in weeks.
I have a calcite from Saxony, Germany, that I got on the Arkenstone years ago, but it has pretty much the same white glow and orange. Doesn't phosphoresce as well, but just a really nice specimen. So
You're missing your tannins there, buddy.
yeah, no tannins in the limestone. It didn't come from a shell or a living organism, so just very much like your basalt up there in Patterson.
Yep. Yeah, this is because this was such a departure from my trap rock quarry.
Yeah.
Such a departure.
they're beautiful.
Any other questions?
To add to what Dave Hennessy mentioned, the Virginia Beach clams, they were reported on the Virginia Wesleyan University campus, but that site, you can't get to it anymore. But also, supposedly in Surrey County near the river, there have been people recently finding them on field trips. So,
Very interesting.
in the vicinity of Williamsburg.
Sounds like a field trip.
I have one more thing I wanted to add. Our speaker, Ron Slodo, who we had a couple months ago, recently won the 2025 Carnegie Award in Tucson. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Congratulations to Ron. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
And congratulations to our program people who got him for
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Thanks very much, Dan. This was really an excellent presentation.
Very good.
Thank
It was
you.
fun. It was a lot of fun. So good seeing everybody. Hope that things are great, and we will be home in about 2 weeks. Actually, exactly 2 weeks. And we'll go from there.
Great.
Justin.